I'm looking at the door, and there was somebody in the door. Okay, now what is that? Because I can see through them. I want to go and see what that is. As soon as is came out of my thoughts, I took off like a bullet. I took off so fast. You could see you're moving within a split second, man. It was just that fast. And I got to the door, to the wall where the image was in the doorway, but they don't let you see their face. When I took off, I ended up above the doorway. Now my mind is, oh my God, how did I move like that? Oh, I was flipping out, man. Let me tell you. I said, oh my God. So when I moved like that, I said, oh, how did I do that? We can't move like that on Earth. We cannot do. How did I do that?
Good evening. Welcome to Earth to the Other Side. I'm John, your host, and tonight I'm speaking with Bryan Jordan, who had an NDE back in 2020 at work due to a cardiac arrest. And Bryan had a heavenly experience, which I'm looking forward to hearing all about. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet you, my brother.
Definitely nice to meet you as well, sir. Thank you so much for being on the show. Oh, and I
Yeah,
also
I
want to
got
mention that Bryan has a book. It's coming out, or it will be out by the time this video comes out. It's coming out tomorrow, actually. And his book is called Death Freed Me. Looking forward to that, Bryan. All right, let's go
beautiful.
ahead. Ball's in your court.
Yeah. I got up that morning, I went to work and I run a bulldozer. So around noon, I stopped to eat lunch, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. A lot of my friends don't eat that to this day. But anyway, that's what I ate for lunch. And when I started back to work, I felt this pressure in my neck. And I thought that was weird. I'd never had that kind of feeling before. So I climbed down off the bulldozer thinking it was going to go away. And it's just start going into my chest. And so now I'm thinking I'm having indigestion, bad indigestion. So I had a water truck driver that I was working with take me to the office to the medic because I normally carry Tums with me, but that day I didn't have any, and I'm glad I did. So um, he took me to the office, and I called my girlfriend. I said, "This is happening again with the chest because there was an instance um, a year before this. I was working in North Dakota, and I was on the phone with my girlfriend while I was sitting on my bulldozer, and I was working by myself, and felt like somebody took a hammer and hit me in my chest. And I told her, I said, "Oh my God," I said, "my chest is hurting." And she's like, "Get off the phone right now. Get off the phone. Call 911 right now." Because she know I don't complain about stuff. If I say something hurting, then it's serious. And so, yeah, I got off the phone with her and I checked my pulse. When I checked my pulse, man, my heartbeat was all over the place. It was all over the place. I didn't even know a heart could beat like that. And so instantly, fear just grabbed me. I said, I am about to die. I am dying, and there's nobody out here but me working. So, yeah, man. And when I got scared like that, all of a sudden, this everything changed around me. It was like a piece fell down around me, and it was so strong. I started looking around because you could feel it. I knew something was there. I just couldn't see it. But whatever it was, it took all the fear out of me. And I had this weird sense saying it's okay to die. Everything was, I was okay. Everything changed. My chest stopped. They took me to the hospital and said it was indigestion, but I'm like, no, I don't believe it was indigestion. I never had that kind of pain. And so fast forward, I get to the medic. Well, I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm gonna go and maybe it's the same thing as before. So when I got to medic office, I went in there and I told my medic, I said, look, I'm having uh, chest problems. I said, I have a chest problem, just need some Tums. And she was looking at me like, like she knew better. And she said, oh, okay, you sit down. You sit down right there. And she gave me Tums and she gave me aspirin. And now I'm hearing her on the phone talking about the ambulance. And I'm like, oh my God, not the ambulance. I said, I'm at work. Maybe this will go away. So my safety guy came in and he wanted me to go to our office with him. She wasn't having that. And so he sat right knee to knee with me on opposite chair, directly across from me. My arm started hurting. That's when I knew I was in trouble. Oh man, my arm started hurting. And I prayed to God. I said, if I wrong you in any kind of way, I'm sorry. Hey man. But I wasn't freaking out. I mean, it is what it is. Because I never forgot that year before that how peaceful everything was. We sat there and she asking me questions, and I felt myself going to sleep. And there was nothing nobody could do about it. I was passing out. And my last thoughts were, I hope he catch me before I smash my face into the floor. That was because I felt myself going down. I said, oh, please catch me. I hope he catch me. I opened my eyes, and the medic, she was on top of me. She was just pushing my chest. She didn't see me open my eyes. So I said, hey. And she looked at me, man, and she jumped off of me. I said, what you doing? And you can imagine her face. And she said, Bryan, your heart stopped. I said, no. I said, I was dreaming. And she's like, she said, man, she said, Bryan, you died. And I'm like, no. I said, no. I said, because I remember stuff. And that's when I looked down and my shirt was cut off and the patches were there and the machine was just talking. I can't remember what it was saying, dude. And now imagine me. Okay, what is all this? Now you tell me I was dead. I said, get me off of this floor right now. And what happened was when I closed my eyes, I was in the stars. I was in the stars and I was looking around and there were things moving. When I was there, I could see them. Um, but when I came back, I just can't remember. But I could tell you what they were doing. They were shooting across like the galaxy. They were shooting across and they were leaving these trails of stars or whatever behind them. And they were just going back and forth. And I was like, I said to myself, John, I said, okay, what I was looking at, I didn't know what it was. So you have these dreams like weird. You wake up like, wow, what was that? So when I woke, when I was looking at them, I said to myself, I said, I remembered falling out of the chair. I remember falling out of that chair and I said, okay, okay, I'm asleep. I said, so I'm dreaming. That's why the stuff I'm looking at, I'm not understanding. So I watched them do their thing for a while. And then it's like being there for me, it was like a turn of a channel. It's like somebody had a remote because I was here 1 second, then I'm somewhere else. Then all of a sudden, I was in, and it reminded me of a cave because it was huge and it curved down, and it wasn't scary. It was light. I could see the color of the rock was like an orange, but you could tell it looked like a cave. Not saying that's what it was. I don't know. So, but as the walls came down to where it should meet a floor, that was no floor. So I'm looking down. It's like the floor was the universe. You follow me? Right? The walls come down, but stop. But then there was no floor. So what I was looking at is like I was looking down into the universe. In front of me, there was these just a pathway, a floating pathway. Mind you, there's no floor, but there was square. Uh, it reminded me of people's houses. You go to their door, like in the country, you got this walkway going up to the door. Yeah, that's what they. But there were two rocks together, and there was a space, and it went this way, and it went that way. So I looked to the right, and it went and it turned, and I looked to the left. The left, the pathway, it went to the wall, and there was a door. There was a door in the wall, and it was like the old doors. It wasn't uh, corner. It was round at the top, and there was somebody in the door. And so I'm like, okay, now what is that? Because I can see through him, and he was just looking at me, and I was a great distance because I couldn't see a face. I know I was looking at somebody in a doorway that I could see right through. And he never moved. She, I don't. He never moved. It was in that doorway looking at me. And so now I'm looking at them like, okay. And I got curious because I was perfectly still. I was just there. And I looked up and I said to myself, I want to go and see what that is. And as soon as is came out of my thoughts, I took off like a bullet. I took off so fast. And I could, you could see you moving within a split second, man. It was just that fast. And I got to the door, to the wall where the image was in the doorway, but they don't let you see their face. And so when I took off, I ended up above the doorway. And now I done forgot completely about why I was going to the door. Now my mind is, oh my God, how did I move like that? Oh, I was flipping out, man. Let me tell you. I said, oh my God. And remember in the first part, when I was in the stars, I said to myself, I said, okay, I must be dreaming. So when I moved like that, oh, that was no doubt in my mind. I said, oh, how did I do that? I said, I know I'm dreaming now. I know I'm dreaming. We can't move like that on Earth. We cannot do. How did I do that? And then I remembered why I went there, and I looked down real fast, and he was below me, and he started floating. He came out of the doorway, and he floated along that concrete path, and I watched him leave, and he just floated, and he was gone. And then I don't remember going in the door, but obviously that was my guy, and he figured out, okay, I'm gonna sit here long enough to where he figure out what he can actually do. And oh my God, I was just blown away. And it's like the channel turned again. Oh, apparently I went in the doorway. It was jet black dark, jet black dark. Um, but another thing about that place when you're there is I didn't think about the dark. It was just dark. Oh well. And I was looking up. So apparently my soul was starting to take over because I don't know why I was looking up. I remember I was looking up in all that darkness, and then I saw a light. I saw a light like somebody way in the background had a flashlight and was looking for something. And man, when that light turned on me, I I don't know if I had hands. I don't know how that works. Some say we just snore, but I went into reaction to block the light with my hands because I wasn't expecting it to be so bright. And instantly when it hit me and I threw my hands up, then I was inside of it. I was changing or growing stronger. I don't know, but I was changing because when I was inside the light, I remember I looked left, in front of me, right, and I looked down, and it was just all light, but it didn't hurt. It was like I was inside of a light bulb, but there was no. It was a calm, beautiful light, and that's all I could see. And so I, I wasn't asking questions, which I should have been. It's like before. So I waited. I waited, and all of a sudden, in front of me, the the light started turning into a fog. It started turning into a fog, and as I was standing out, I'm looking and I could see a blue sky. I said, okay, that's the sky. And man, from right after that, right when I was looking, I was I was grabbed. I don't know what it was, but next thing you know, I went into this ecstasy, this love. Oh my God, it was so it was like just it was just like I couldn't do nothing. I was lost in this. I mean, it's just the best way I can describe it is, you know how you have the waterfalls and all the force that they when it hit the bottom. Just imagine if somebody stuck you right into all that force at the bottom where all that force is coming down. But imagine it's just love. It's a love you'll never feel here. You would never know it until you die. Um, and I was just lost. I was just lost. And I saw the word forgiveness. I saw the word love. And then I saw the word peace. When I saw the word peace, I came out of the light. When I came out of the light, I was in that sky that I was looking at. And I changed even more after that experience. I changed. I was like a God. I was I was in the sky, man, and I never questioned, say, hey dude, you in the sky right now. Like I was a Superman. And I had not one thought in my head. I Everything was crystal clear. I was free. When I said death freed me, I was free, free. I felt powerful. I felt strong. I felt I can do anything that I wanted to do. And till this day, I'll tell you, that's what I know we are powerful when we drop this body. I know. I felt it. And so I'm looking down at the land at the bottom and I see these pine trees. So I effortlessly floated on down. Really, I didn't move fast like the bullet. I floated down real slow, and I started at the tops of these pine trees, and I started floating down, and it was like I could see every needle. Imagine that, pine trees with all these needles, and that's like I could see not one of them missed me. And I floated on down until the tree went into the ground, and then I floated backwards, and it was a drop off. And I looked below me, and there was these flowers. There was these gardens. The flowers were big as your dinner table. The the colors would entrance you. Once I started looking at it, you can't stop. It's like they're alive. It's like they're looking back. You know what I'm saying? And they so vibrant. Our red, imagine the red there 1,000 times red, deeper, and they were shining and glistening. And I can see. I remember I picked one out, and I could zoom it in, just one. And also, I could see that one. I could see left of me. I could see right. because there were white rays coming out of sky. I don't know if they were coming from the light that brought me there. I don't know because now the light never left because it was gonna take me back or whatever. So yeah, yeah, something was up there. I didn't see what it was, but yeah, I could see these flowers, and I was just floating real slow to the right, just looking at all these flowers, and it was like I said, it was like they were alive. And once you start looking at them, it's like, oh my God, how can something be so beautiful, you know? And so the channel changed again, and I was in the sky again. I was all by myself. I couldn't see nothing else but the sky. Blue, beautiful blue sky. No land nowhere. And then as I'm looking forward, the sky shifts. Now that's super hard to explain. It's like a door open, but you're looking at a blue sky, trying to figure out, okay, and when the door opened, it's still blue, but you could tell something moved. And then I was these four white lights. They were straight up and down, and it was shining so white, beautiful white, no yellow, nothing in there. And I started watching them. And as I was watching, they were getting closer to me. And I said, okay, they're getting bigger. And then all of a sudden, all around me, all these little white lights just start popping up all around me. And it was just swirling and just swirling around me, man. I'm like, wow, check this out. And they were beautiful. And I was just looking and still in that zone. I mean, like I said, the longer I was there, the more I wasn't questioning stuff no more. I was just looking like nothing in to say like, well, okay, what's going on? And none of that was done. Brian was gone at that point. There was no more Brian. And my thoughts are what yes, yes. So uh I watched him. It was like I was a disturbed bee nest. They was all over me, man. And when the big lights got there, all the little lights start leaving me like little bullets. It was just going. I was watching, going over here. So they started at the top light, and they started melting together. And as I'm looking, I could see a head. And as they went down, I could see the shoulders and start going down. It was just steady going, blending together. And when I watched them go all the way down to the bottom. And when I looked up, his head was down, and he lifted his head up, and he was looking at me. I said, "Oh my God, total light!" And you could tell he was either holding his hands because his shoulders came down, and you could tell where the elbow it went in. But of course, this is all light. And he was just looking at me, man, and I was like, "Wow." And then these lights on the side of his head came out, and they were waving, and then one at the top, and they were waving like super antennas, like he knows all, because that's me looking at him, looking at me. I'm like, he knows all. And
Powerful.
then he started floating in the sky, and he would go up and down, side to side, and he never stopped looking at me because as he go up and down, he would move his head. He would move his head, and he was looking at me the whole time. And so, right when he got done his little air show or whatever, he came to me. He came right back to me. He was so close I could reach out and touch him. And if I knew now what I knew then, I would have tried. Man, can I have some of that power? So yeah, man. So he uh he got right there in my face, and then he took off. he moved like the bullet that I did in the first time, and it was so fast he left tracers of himself, and I watched them. Each tracer disappeared, and that's when I opened my eyes on the floor, and they telling me I died. I'm like, no, man. After all what I just saw, you telling me I was dead? Is that how it feels to die? You don't even know. I did not know I was dead not one time when I was there, not one time. And here they are for the last 5 minutes trying to get me alive. The battle that they were going through, and I was gone like 5 minutes, and I was like, because I asked her later, she said 4 to 5 minutes. She said once you fell out, you made a certain sound, and that was it. He had to wrestle me and get me right and all that. She had guesstimated 4 to 5 minutes, and the time that I was there was ridiculously longer, way longer than what they were. I couldn't believe what she said. She said 4 minutes. I felt like I was just in the first part that long. And look
Yeah.
at all the different stages that I went through.
Well, there was no time where
So,
you were, right? So,
no, no,
yeah, you could have been there for 100 years.
yes,
Yeah.
man, just by all what I saw.
Yeah.
So they got me up. My arm was in total pain. It was hurting more than my chest was. And some guy was standing in the doorway, and he said, "Can I do anything to help you?" And I said, "Just hold my arm above my head, because that was the only relief I could get." And he did that. He did that until the ambulance got there. Now, mind you, I'm 80 miles from a major hospital, 80 miles. And uh, the ambulance couldn't move me. I'd already died once. So they were there just to, hook me up to their machines or whatever. So, but before they got there, I was sweating so bad. And and then I got real sleepy. You get real sleepy with a heart attack. And I was sweating. I wanted to go to sleep. Telling me, no, you don't go to sleep. There's a bunch of people there now, right? These people were lined up against the wall. I knew most of them, and I'd look up, and they would look away. You know, they would they couldn't do nothing for me.
They knew you were in bad shape.
I was in bad shape, and
Mm.
they didn't want to. I'd look at them, they look away, and
Yeah. Well, for all they knew, you could have been, touch and go, you know.
yes, look
Mm.
what I just did. And
Exactly.
so now, because actually my bosses they weren't at work. They were coming back, and they saw the ambulance pass by, and they're like, "Oh, I wonder where they going to get your employee." Because then they got the phone call that I was not doing well.
Mm.
So then they followed the ambulance in. And
Because you were pretty much out in the middle of nowhere, right?
oh man, yeah.
Mm.
It was called Nashville, Kansas. And if you go through there and you blink your eye, you would miss the whole town. That's how far out I was.
Mm.
So yes. Um, but one thing about all of that before they put me in there, I was sitting there looking at them, and while they were feeling sorry for me, I was feeling sorry for them. I'm like, because after you see that, I wasn't supposed to do this.
It's okay, brother. Take your time, man.
Yeah, after you, uh, uh, let's see.
There's no rush, man.
But yes, as they were feeling sorry for me, I was feeling sorry for this whole world. It's like, man, everything people think it takes to get there, uh, or you live your whole life. Oh, well, this one said do this one said do that. It's this way or that way. when it's none of it's none of that. Man, you when you die, I just left, and it was so incredible. And then all these people looking at me, feeling sorry for me. Dude, I didn't want to come back here. After later with the depression and all that that comes after this stuff. But yeah, I didn't. I was feeling sorry for you guys, and so they uh they got me in the ambulance. They hooked me in there and all that stuff they do. I felt a jerk. While I was laying there, I felt a jerk. And then everybody in the ambulance, they were just looking at me. And I said, what happened? And she said, we had to shock you. And this time when I felt the jerk, I was standing right next to my body and I was looking at my face. Do you know I didn't know what I was? I had not one clue what I was looking at. My eyes were closed. My head was, assumed like I was asleep. The impression you would get if you looked at me. My mouth was open because I could see my top teeth. And I was like, I never had a thought to come in my head like, what is that? I couldn't see everybody else in there, but I was looking right in my face, and I consider myself as an it. Um, I didn't want to have nothing to do with it. I didn't want to get near it. I didn't even know what I was. I had not one clue. Uh,
Had you like sort of associated the two experiences? Do you know what I mean? Like when you were looking straight at your face, did you have the awareness of what you had just previously experienced?
no, I this time I was, in the first one when I was asking all them questions and I kind of elevated or grew. I was the same way. No questions, no wow, none of that. So after I looked at myself a while, I disappeared. I was gone. And this time I was in front of this big, huge circle, huge. And inside this circle there were flowers. And all these flowers, there were groups. They had their own colors and their own groups. And they all filled the circle. And what came to me is that we all are different, speak different languages, think different, have your groups here and have your groups there. But guess what? All of these groups are still in the circle. We are all one, regardless what you look like or your neighbor. You can like them or not, but we are all still one. And there's I believe my whole experience, it kept showing me oneness, even with the little lights joining the big ones to make one perfect being, super being. It's all something joining together to make something, you know, and and from there, John, I caught a glimpse of the earth. And yeah, it's round for all flat earth. What I was looking at was round. It was round. I was way up and I was looking. The earth might have been the size, say, a baseball from my view, from where I was looking down at it. And John, it's the beautifulest blue that you could see. It was a glowing blue. The earth was beautiful, and it had that mist that the mist that when I was in the light, that the mist that I saw that where I could see outside, it was a mist like that surrounding the earth, like a mist, you know. But you could still the blueness was still penetrating out of it, and it was and I and after I got back and all this stuff started coming back to you, I I wondered, I'm like, man, this is so beautiful looking at it from that distance. How could something so beautiful house so much evil? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
How could that be? But and then from there, I went to a museum. I guess that's what it was. It was perfect white room. The walls, the ceiling, everything was perfectly gloss, shiny white. And they had these podiums. So that's why I had this feel in a museum. They had these podiums. And on top of these podiums were these dogs. And they were black dogs. And they looked just like the dogs that the Egyptians would draw on the caves. You had the long nose with the ball on the end. It didn't look like a regular. It looked just like somebody drew it. And the whole room was had these animals in there. And I was just looking at them. And when I came back, I'm like, I wonder what that really have to do with me seeing this Egyptian stuff. Like, made me think, hey, I might have lived back in the day somewhere. You never know. I don't understand everything I was looking at. I came back and the helicopter got there and they took me. I was okay. And we got to the roof and they started wheeling me in there and it was like, block it, block it, block it. And man, it felt like, on TV when you watch that or they running with somebody on the ambulance and you can see the lights on the ceiling going by. Not the ambulance, but inside the hospital on the cart.
That's
You see the
intense.
lights going by. Yes, man. And I said, man, I did not wake up today knowing that I was gonna die or go through all of this, you know.
Yeah.
So, and they start prepping me for surgery. And I remember my arms were on my side, and I died again because when I opened my eyes, my arms were up over my head. And I asked the guy that was working next to me, I said, hey, I said, wasn't my arms on my side? He said, you didn't feel that? I said, no, feel what? We shocked you and your whole body almost came off the table. That it was that big of a shock. And I said, no, I didn't feel none of that. Now this is my third time, John. You know, so I'm starting to ask questions. Am I gonna make it? I said, am I gonna die today? And he said, no, I watch you not. It's not on my watch. And the doctor came, put the stent in, and I was okay. And he came, saw me later. He said, Bryan, you had a very nasty heart attack, and your heart is bad because of all of the shocks. And he said, I'm not even supposed to be talking to you. He said it was just that bad. He said, you're supposed to be on a ventilator. He said, but here you are sitting up here talking to me like nothing happened. He said, you are a miracle. Um, Later, I heard that it was a widowmaker, and I only had a 10% chance of survival. They told me I didn't even have, but if I had a heart attack in the hospital, I still only had 10%. So here I'm at 80 miles way out, and here I am talking to you.
Amazing. And you were talking to the person that was pumping on your chest too, which is extraordinary, isn't it? Because normally after a cardiac arrest, would you be able to
She
talk?
said that's why I scared her because she's done this before. And she said, Bryan, you don't come back talking. You came back just talking like, and the doctor was like, he was even looking at me like, dude, I'm not even supposed to be talking to you right now.
Hmm.
He said, you are a miracle. Um, and then after I left there, that's when the real drama started because all of that stuff is with you constantly running through your mind. Now I'm like, wait a minute, okay, it was beautiful and all. I didn't want to be here, and then as the depression start coming,
Hmm.
uh, because I died 3 times and I kept getting sent back here. That was hard because who can you really talk to about it? You know what I'm saying? Everybody here was praying for me through that ordeal, and I didn't want nobody's prayers. I didn't want nobody interfering, trying to save me. You know what I'm saying? To save me is to let me stay there. It was okay. That's my family. That's my friends. But you can't understand what I'm going through until you see it and feel it. Everything is effortless. It's whatever you think in your mind is what you do or how you move. And people just couldn't understand um me trying to explain, oh yeah, I didn't want to come back here.
But I'm sure many, many, many on both sides, and me in particular, are very happy that you did come back and
Yeah.
sharing this experience is
Yes,
finishing
yes,
your experience is means the world
yes.
to everybody.
I
So
got over it. I got over it, man. It took a few months. You know, I didn't care. I have kids here, grandbabies.
mm,
But but you just people just can't understand when you see that. Okay, I'll see y'all later. Y'all be up there with me soon enough. But I don't. Yeah, I know. But I got over it. One day I woke up, man, and I said, okay, I'm ready to start living. I accept that, okay, I'm back. They kept kicking me out. And so I'm back and I'm about to tell this story to everybody that has a breath, anybody, where I go. If you give me a few minutes of your time, you're going to find out about the hope. There's hope when you see stuff like that. And if it's the way God decides to use me, then that's the way I'm going to do it.
amen to
Now I have
that.
a feeling I'm gonna live over 100 some years old because I'm never gonna stop telling this story.
It's all good,
Never.
man. There's always
Yeah.
going to be somebody who needs to hear it. So yeah, you keep doing
Yes, yes.
that.
And if it helps just one person, that's
Mhm.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, most certainly
That's
is.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, time for questions. Thank you for sharing so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a real joy listening to you. And I have a couple questions though, like the realities, like between there, what you experienced and here. Did you feel like one or the other was more realistic, or were they just so vastly different that it's not comparable?
It's vastly different that you can't compare it, but to know I know I'm not from here. So this place gives me the fake uh it gives me the fake side of it. There was real as it can get.
What point do you think you realized that you were, you know, uh, I ask this a lot because I'm always curious, like, is there a point at which you realize, okay, I must be dead. I'm dead now. Okay.
No,
Did you have that time? No, eh?
not
You just never
one
knew.
time.
So you just
They
very
always had
smoothly transitioned from one into the
just
other.
go to sleep, man.
Yeah.
You just go to sleep. That's all death is.
Hmm.
And when you pop out, a lot of people know, or they said they knew that they were died or have died. All the accounts that I've watched, but not me. Not one. I was ready to argue with that lady the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, you're gonna tell me I was dead. I didn't feel dead or whatever dead's supposed to feel like, but it's incredible.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but I never, not one time did I know I was gone. I didn't know what my body was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of which, you sort of described more or less like an out of body experience at one point in the ambulance, right? And you said
Hmm.
you felt a jerk. Did you hear like a Velcro rip, like a psst, as you
No,
nothing like that?
no. It was like a smooth jerk, and I
Okay.
was gone.
Hmm. And I wondered, like at that point, like you're very close to your face, like right up against,
Hmm.
like you're really literally in your face, your own face.
Yes,
And
yes. My own
but do you
face.
think that if had you thought, okay, well, I want just at the speed of thought, if you had thought, let's see, bird's eye view of this ambulance, do you think you would have been able to do that?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. but it was like I was on a mission, you know, because a lot of people say they float all through the hospital and all and do all kinds of stuff here on Earth. But no, that was the only thing I saw after I died that was from Earth was my face. And I never thought nothing about Earth the whole time I was there. It was like this place never even existed. Just like my life here never even existed.
Yeah.
Nothing from Earth was I thought about that. Nothing and nobody.
From the first experience, was it immediately that you sort of detached from the earthly attachments, or was it a
Yeah.
gradual process?
No,
Immediate?
I was gone. The first time I didn't see nothing, but when I start figuring out something was going on is when I was in the stars, just floating in space.
So what's your take on that then? Like, do you think that, let's say it was full out death, you didn't return. Based on your experience, do you feel as though you would have just completely forgotten about your ego? I mean, sorry, about your earthly Bryan Jordan, and just move on?
That hey, from what I felt, I, I and when I say this, a lot of people get offended because their families, their families are here, and of course, you're gonna see them. But as far as my account, I never made it that far. And I believe that was my family with me, the little lights
Mm.
that was circling me. I saw my family. I just didn't see no faces. But I'm sure that comes. But as far as me leaving here, I believe we just take whatever we learned or whatever we were supposed to come here to do. You take that back with you. But as far as dude, I didn't remember no heart attack, no pain. I didn't even know what my body was. So I don't believe not you're not gonna take none of that stuff with you. You're not gonna remember the brother you used to fight with, not unless you you did him wrong and they have this review. I didn't have a review.
But do you think if you set an intention to remember any of those traits or any of those elements of your experience that you would be able to?
Man, it's
I just
all
think
things
because
of
I know I understand where
I
you're coming
know
from. I know it doesn't matter, but I know that some people would be wondering, like, come on, man.
I know, because I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Right.
I
What's your
can
take on
only say what I
reincarnation?
feel. I didn't believe in it before I died, but I do now. And the
Okay,
reason I do
tell me.
is because of the children. I believe, and I get it when people at you have to understand we are in our own human minds. So of course, us as humans are all this pain and killing and all this stuff here. We know who wants to come back here. But see, when you leave your body, you something totally different. And that power that you really are can look at this and say, "Oh, that ain't nothing." You know, we feel we on the weak side. When you pop out, man, you do whatever you want, and if you want to come back here, I believe you do. Yeah, I believe you do.
Do you think that you sat up before incarnating here with whomever to discuss your life plan before coming?
I feel I've heard of that. Uh, some believe in it, some don't. Um, I believe I had something to do. I believe everything was already written. My heart attack, everything. Because my mother almost lost me from the beginning. I wasn't even, dude. In my book, I go into a lot of that. 'Cause I almost died several times. I almost didn't even come out of the womb. So yeah, it's my life has been interesting, but I do believe I had a purpose. The heart attack was already in my story, and after all that happened, then I'm on a whole different mission.
Do you think that when you went into that light the first time, it was more or less like a cleansing for you, for what your soul
Yes.
had been through for the
A-
past however many years?
After, oh my God, man, and it took me a while to try and figure out that had to have been a cleansing, a washing, something, because it was so powerful. and it just take you right out your mind. But I felt I had to go through that before I went out, because that happened. I was inside the light. That was before. Oh yeah, after that cleansing, man, I was something different. No more thoughts. No, wow, look at this. Wow, look at that. Nope. It was like all of it was mine.
So while you were in there, like up until that point, you still had some sort of earthly attachments.
Oh no, 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 no,
No? Okay.
no.
Yeah.
Once no.
Okay.
Once I said I was changing slowly by each part I went to, but when I went through that, I was fully what I was supposed to be. Like it's like I was home. It's like I was home. I didn't tell you the last time, the when I died the third time. I never told you what I saw. Uh, I was standing in front. It reminded me of a chair, but it was like 3 stories. It was real big, and on the top there were these green vines. There were these vines growing down this side of this thing, all the way down to the floor. And what was attached to these vines, and I'm gonna tell you something I just learned. Uh, there was these yellow flowers, and the flowers, each one was probably the size of your house. They were huge. Like, everything there is huge. So it's huge, huge. So, and these flowers, they were shining just like the other ones. And and I was, and I can't, it didn't have a backrest. So I don't know. It reminded me of a chair. It didn't have the long legs. It was a box. Under this box, the wood was carved. The what it sat on, the feet, they were carved like old ancient wood, man. Like somebody old ancient carvings. The carvings on is the just the feet that was it was sitting on. And in the background it had this light like in the background. I don't know, it reminded me of a footstool. So imagine what the chair would look like if it was somewhere behind there. So this thing was beautiful, man, and creamy yellow angel's trumpet. Now imagine that.
In your book, do you have any illustrations or is it all just print?
It's the I'm actually the ebook is going to be available. I'm working on the paper book right now, and um, I'm going to try and have some in that
Okay, cool.
because I drew what he looked like.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
imagine that looking at you. You know?
Wow,
Yeah,
man.
yes, sir.
Wow. Right.
All
Brother, thank you
good.
so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on my channel and share your story. It's been beautiful. I really appreciate
That's
it.
I
Thank you
love
so much.
talking
God
about
bless
it,
you.
man. God bless you, John.
Right on, bro.
Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. My pleasure.